October 30th. Fun fact about October 30th, 3 years ago today, I did my first YouTube video. Been quite the journey since then. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by the boss man, Alex Baker. We are here to break down week 8 in the NFL because this NFL season is going very quickly. Basically the halfway point now. Alex, how are you?
Good, man. Congrats on 3 years of making videos. You got in the game before me, man. So I'm still trying to catch up. Week
I'll,
8.
I'll trade you. You can go back and do videos 3 years ago and I'll take the money.
Deal. All right. So week.
So you have a time machine. Now it all makes sense.
Well, I always told you guys about how my model is based on the butterfly effect and how it's like people just try to model sports. I'm trying to model everything, and then like how that affects it. Like, no one's making the connection between how the Dodgers won the World Series and now that they did, the Rams are going to be in a better spot this weekend. So that's really the kind of analysis I do to try to make a difference.
I love it. Sounds great. Butterfly Effect. I need to rewatch that movie. Classic Ashton Kutcher. Before we get started, everybody, please hit that like button. Helps us out a ton. Hit the subscribe button. I saw little murmurings going on in our internal Slack that we are close to, I think it was 40,000 subs. Let me make sure. Yeah, we're at 39,500 subscribers on YouTube. We would love to get to 40K. So go ahead and subscribe now. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Why wouldn't you want to do that? It's the perfect time to do it. So I wanted to touch on one thing before we got started for building out week 8 lineups. And I know you did a show with NC Orfield 8K, which is naturally just, I want to say N Corfield, but I know that that's his last name isn't Corfield. It just catches me up when I try to look at it. But one of our subs, Neil, took down the Millie last week. You did an interview with him. You guys can find that video on our YouTube channel. I would highly recommend that you do that. But I have one or two questions about it for you, and then we can get into the lineup builds, if that works for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I have...
Yeah, congrats to Neil. Neil, the XFL guy, as he goes by in our Slack chat. So it was fun seeing everyone sweating it in there. And it was an exciting win because it all came down to this, the last part of the Arizona-Seattle game. And then it went to overtime. So it's like he had to be feeling pretty good, but then it almost ended with a field goal. He would have finished a third, I think. So really the stars aligned for him to get to number 1 and take out $1 million.
Yeah, you're going to need a little bit of that no matter what in a contest of this size, and that worked out perfectly for him, for us, for everybody involved that is positive for this information. Probably didn't work out all that well for the guys that finished second and third and fourth and all the other guys around him.
I feel bad because the guy who finished second also was an Awesemo member. He had the avatar up there, so hopefully it's a sign of good things to come for that for him. And that's always tough to finish second.
Yeah, especially when the swing is that massive. It's not like, oh, he won 750,000 instead of $1 million. It's a pretty steep drop off, unfortunately. Yeah. You're not mad, but you're not as happy as you want to be. I'm guessing.
Definitely. Probably not.
So I have a couple things pulled up on the screen right now, one of which is just simply you and Neil on the left-hand side. You both played 150 lineups. I think it's interesting to see that you both had similar player pool sizes. Neil, 124 people in his player pool. You had 112, so you're coming at it from a similar player pool size, which is interesting. I also have the overall exposures. You're both pretty concentrated to some of the higher owned plays on the slate. I've heard you mention previously, just because someone's chalky doesn't mean that they are bad. It's not an immediate disregard of high ownership. Alvin Kamara was 50% owned in the Millie last week. You played him at 71%. Neil played him at 63%. Sometimes chalk is good. You expect Kamara to be good. Sometimes it's not even enough. When you see, I'm guessing you don't even bat an eye at it. You're just waiting for the next step to evaluate it. But is there anything you look at specifically when a guy is as heavily owned as someone like Kamara last week and you're still getting to him over the field?
Yeah, definitely. This is tough to look at because Neil made more than $1 million more than me in this contest. So just disregard all of my exposures here. It looks like the exposures are actually off the screen if you can move them over.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I think there's a huge difference between a guy like Kamara and a guy like Derrick Henry, because Kamara, a lot of his points were PPR points, and being the number one receiver basically in New Orleans with all the other guys sidelined, and the fact that he completes a lot of short receptions, that just added a really like steady workload of fantasy production into his game. Where Derrick Henry, you need a couple touchdowns to get there. So these guys couldn't be more different. Kamara, I mean, it's like the price just wasn't set to a point where it was reasonable in a good matchup versus where it should have been, where like if Michael Thomas is out, maybe you'd expect Kamara to be like 9 or 10K.
And then similar story, Jamal Williams, you both ended up coming in north of the field, you very aggressively. And it's another scenario where it makes perfect sense to me. We didn't really have other players in that salary tier with the expected workload that Jamal Williams was going to get. Is there a difference to you in the way that you would look to build your lineups for a projected high-owned expensive running back, or expensive high-owned anybody, versus an expensive or an inexpensive high-owned player? So Kamara and Jamal Williams, two different sides of the coin. Kamara, very expensive, or at least relatively to the rest of the slate. Jamal Williams, essentially a free square. Do you manage that ownership differently in your construction?
Well, yeah, I think it all comes down to how good of a play Jamal Williams was. Where, I mean, there was a good pivot in Gio Bernard with Joe Mixon out. There was a question mark where maybe A.J. Dillon. I heard some people speculating that maybe A.J. Dillon could be the guy who gets more rushing attempts.
Yeah.
I wasn't really buying into that a ton, so that's why I really went all in on Jamal Williams, because another guy that can get it done receiving the ball, and then if you get a touchdown, this is gravy.
Okay. So final question with regards to the Millie, and it's sort of an inverse question. What are some of the things that you would want to do when you're building your lineups that change based on the size of the contest? So your entries into the Millie, a contest with 222,000 entries, going to be a little bit different than if this was a 150 max with, say, 5,000 entrants. What are some things that people could look at that are important to you based on the size of a contest?
I just think taking more shots on low-owned players. Like one of my favorites this past week was Chris Godwin. He was only 1% owned, I think, in the Millie. And whenever you get a guy that is so involved in the offense, that really sets him up big for having a performance that could win in GPP, even if he was a little bit expensive. So I think maybe going heavier on some of these 1 or 2% guys, especially if they're ones that are actually really good players and are just a little bit expensive, that can pay off pretty big.
Okay. I mean, so we had Godwin at 2.5%, which is essentially, non-existent from an ownership perspective in a contest like this. You also went pretty heavy on Darren Waller, 4% owned. I think would be in a similar bucket to Chris Godwin. That ownership is not representative of his actual talent level. So going heavier on guys with maybe a higher baseline makes a lot of sense. In a large field contest like this, because no one would have been surprised if Darren Waller scored 2 touchdowns and had 100 yards last week. And to get something like that at 4%, I think is really interesting. We talk so much of the industry it's exciting to see the Millie, and obviously, we're excited to have Neil win it, repping our logo. The large majority of people are not playing in the Millie Maker, or if they are, it's a single bullet. And I love trying to think about the relationship between ownership and a huge contest like the Millie in comparison to a lot of the smaller contests that we see on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. So the idea of getting to someone like a Waller or a Chris Godwin, super low owned in the Millie, not necessarily reflective on their skill set, maybe more of a price problem than anything else. Something to pay attention to moving forward.
Definitely, yeah. I think the Millie Maker, it's the biggest player pool in the industry for a reason. People love this contest, and it's a lot of fun trying to strategize for this, and sometimes making strategies for like the smaller, less exciting contests gets lost in the shuffle. So try to cover it all.
So we have a little bit of stuff going on right now. Sports are kind of on the back burner right now. It's a lot of NFL, baseball done for a while, basketball done for not a while, apparently, which is kind of exciting. But we still have NFL shows constantly. So coming up immediately after this at 12 Eastern, Matt and Kyle will be doing their NFL Start Sit show. So if you're a season-long player, this will help you figure out, should you be putting certain people in the lineup? Should you be taking them out? Matt and Kyle will go through all of that. We also have some free content for you if you're interested in taking a look at some of the stuff that we have on the website. The NFL Express stack tool is free for today. So if you want to see the Express version of Alex's top stacks, that is free. And if you want to just switch up sports entirely, MMA rankings are free today. We have another UFC event coming tomorrow. So if you want to see where Alex stands from an MMA rankings perspective, perfect opportunity to do this. Should be the last fight in the career of Anderson Silva in the UFC. That's a biggie. You don't want to miss that one. So MMA rankings, NFL Express stack tool. It is time to check that content out. And it is time, I believe, unless you have anything else that you want to add right now, it's time to go to the wheel.
As you'd say in MMA, it's time. Oh God, I'm so corny.
Very, very good, Bruce Buffer. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
It's time for the wheel. Cash on DraftKings, cash on FanDuel, GPPs on DraftKings and FanDuel. It's time to spin the wheel. What will we build today? Here we go. Looking like FanDuel cash starting it off for us.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. I've got the big board pulled up right now, so I'll switch it over to FanDuel. And then we'll get FanDuel main slate selected. We don't have any like weird games getting pushed or anything yet. We seem to be relatively COVID free right now.
Well, there's the Chargers game. They had a positive.
I forgot about that. Except the only thing that I keep seeing now is Trevor Lawrence, which will only be important next year, not all that important this year.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got the big board up. Let me also grab ownership for FanDuel because I haven't really looked at that as of yet. More of a DK person right now. So, yeah, Kareem Hunt's season. Here we go. Number one player on the big board this week, George Kittle. By quite a bit. Oh, Seattle. That's going to be a fun game. All right, let's start it off. Is there anything that you immediately see in your FanDuel data that says, this guy's got to be in the cash lineup? We don't have any other choice.
Well, yeah, George Kittle stands out, I guess. 7,700. You got a matchup versus Seattle. They're a really good offense, so you got to expect San Francisco, a run-first team, might have to pass a little bit more on Sunday. So I think he makes a great play.
I think that Kittle would make a better play if people would hit the like button. 270 concurrent viewers, 37 likes. Not nearly enough, everybody. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up. I'll allow George Kittle to work his way into this lineup right now. But I'm with you there. Looks like a fantastic play. As I look at some of the other guys at the top, Robbie Anderson is third. That's really not going to help us out. They played yesterday and didn't really work out the way that you would like it. Darren Waller, another relatively cheap option, but we already have a tight end. From what I'm seeing at the top of your big board, there's not a ton of salary savings to be found this week. I'm not seeing the 4K Jamal Williams type plays. Do you see anybody that's a value play this week that we should be looking at? Because I'm seeing a lot of guys in the 6s and 7s.
Well, the way I'd actually go, I agree, there's not a ton of value right now. Carlos Hyde with no Carson. He's questionable, though, so we can't really lock him in. Josh Kelly for the Chargers, if that game happens, we're not really sure. But the main injury I'm keying in on here is Odell Beckham Jr. being out for the year, and you got to expect that just means Jarvis Landry, who is already a top target, is going to be targeted even more. Rashard Higgins is now a starter. He's cheap, but almost as expensive as Jarvis Landry on FanDuel, so maybe not a FanDuel play. And then Kareem Hunt also could see some more receptions without Odell Beckham Jr. So I'm really keying in on this Browns team.
Kareem Hunt, 8,200 on FanDuel this week. That is a big price tag. Jarvis Landry, 5,800 at wideout. That seems to me like something we're going to want to look at. He's, I guess, a little bit less valuable on FanDuel compared to DraftKings. So he is sort of like a target and reception monster. Only the half-point PPR on FanDuel. But I'm happy to lock in Landry now as a bit of salary savings, see where we can go from there.
Yeah, I think Landry is a cash lock this week.
Perfect. That's what I like to hear. And we got those likes up a little bit. I appreciate you guys. As we look through everything else, we have Kamara at 9K. That's a big number. Kareem Hunt at 8,200, still a big number. We might not have many alternatives, unfortunately. This is a very, very difficult cash build. I feel like for every cash build we've done so far this season, it's sort of built itself. I don't remember having so many question marks. And right now, everybody looks really similar as I'm working my way down everything. Anybody else that stands out to you right out of the gate? Chat, if you have any thoughts as to who should work their way into a FanDuel lineup, don't be afraid to let us know in chat.
Do we get Hunt in there? Because I feel like so we got this matchup versus Vegas. The Browns still have a 26 team total despite losing OBJ. So I'm kind of keying on this whole team. Just I don't think they're expensive enough across the industry.
I didn't have him in before, but I do now. So we've got Hunt, Landry, and Kittle in. That leaves us just shy of $6,400 per player. Obviously, that includes defense as well. So doing all right.
Let's throw in a defense. So the way I'm looking at this is the obvious cash defense. What is the Eagles' price? Because Dallas is starting their third string QB, and if he's worse than Andy Dalton, that's not a good sign for them.
Yeah, I can't remember his name already, but it's definitely like the name of a person that shouldn't be the quarterback in the NFL.
It's like Danucci or something.
It is Danucci. It is Danucci. I almost said D'Annunzio, but that's I think beer league and not the right answer. So the Eagles are 4,600. You also have the Saints at 3,600 with the same rating.
The Eagles aren't on the main slate, so scratch that.
Perfect. I didn't want to pick them anyway.
All right, so Kansas City versus the Jets. The Jets are underdogs by 20 points, which that's insane. That the only thing is I don't know if Darnold really throws picks at a ridiculous rate. So I think the Chiefs may be overrated in GPPs, but in cash, that's about as safe as you can get. It's only a question about the price.
I was going to say, do you prefer the Chiefs over the Saints? You do have the Saints tied with the Eagles at the top spot on your FanDuel big board. $1,400 savings over the Chiefs as well.
Yeah, the $1,400 makes a big difference. So that makes a lot of sense. The Bears offense has been miserable this year, and the Saints defense is pretty good. So yeah, I like that.
Saints D in, quarterback, running back, 2 wideouts, and a flex. So 5 spots left to fill. or just shy of 7K per position. So it's feeling a little bit better now that we've got that Saints D in. Probably need to get another wide receiver sooner rather than later, but we're slowly fleshing this one out. It's feeling pretty good. If I look at wideouts now, somewhere in that 7K range, Keenan Allen, 7,400. He is the third ranked wide receiver on your big board. Tyler Lockett coming off a monster game last week. He is the sixth ranked wide receiver on your big board at 7,200. Anybody you're looking at other than those two?
Oh, well, yeah, Keenan Allen's in that game. We're not sure if it's going to happen, but I was just go under the assumption it is. So, they versus Denver, a little bit of a tough defensive matchup, but this one's all about volume. So I think that Keenan Allen is 7,400. That's a little bit cheap. Tyler Lockett, I mean, he had the big game last week. And the matchup versus San Francisco is a little bit tough. It's cash, so we're not really worried about maybe a ownership bump he's getting though. So I kind of am tempted also Devontae Adams just because he's pretty much the highest volume wide receiver in the league right now.
Yeah,
he's expensive on FanDuel though at 9,100. So which one are you liking?
I'd be fine going with Devontae Adams, and if we need to roll that down to Keenan Allen or Lockett when we realize we run out of money, I think that's perfectly fine.
Awesome.
All right, so Adams in. Might be a decent time to grab our quarterback now. Let's see where this plays out, but we've got quarterback, running back, wideout, and then a flex spot. John Emmanuel was pretty happy when we brought up Keenan Allen, so we'll keep him on the back burner, that's for sure. We've got... Bird has been recommended by Stephen Leibowitz, N'Keal Harry. We've got a couple different options for some salary savings. Obviously now no Julian Edelman for the Pats this week. Out for an extended amount of time, I guess. Had some stuff taken out of his knee. So we've got N'Keal Harry at 5,100, Damiere Byrd 4,900. Do either of those two guys stand out to you as salary savings this week against the Bills?
Well, they're definitely salary savings, that's for sure. As far as good players in the NFL, like not so much, but so what I'm looking at here, I think N'Keal Harry is a worse GPP play, but a better cash play because he's just getting targeted at a very high rate at 21% of routes this year, where Bird is only at 14%. Now, Harry's only averaging 9 yards per catch, which is bad in GPPs, but I think he should be a little bit more consistent than Bird, although I do have Bird projected a little bit higher.
N'Keal Harry did not practice on Wednesday due to a concussion, still in the concussion protocol, so I'm guessing that Damiere Byrd will look pretty good if N'Keal Harry is also out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Patriots passing game, I'm not loving going there in cash.
Okay.
So maybe we can find some value somewhere else.
Sure. Sliding over to quarterback now. I want to see who you have highly ranked. Oh, surprise, surprise. Pat Mahomes. Decent line going for the Chiefs. I guess he should be expected to play pretty well. Here's a question, because we don't run into this all that often. This doesn't really have too much to do with building out the cash lineup. Do you discount Mahomes' potential playing time at all for this week?
Well, I do incorporate that in my model, like not as much playing time, like him getting subbed out, which I guess that could happen, but more in how much they're going to pass, like the volume. Kansas City is one of the most pass first teams in the league this season, but when you look at their overall stats, like it looks like they run a lot more than they do because they've had positive game scripts pretty much every game, and you got to expect that to be the case going against the Jets as well. Yeah. So I think Mahomes strikes me as a guy that in cash you gotta like but not love because of that game script. But in GPPs, it might be a spot where the upside is a little bit limited.
Yeah, quarterback is kind of tough here. We've got Mahomes at the top at 9,200. That's going to be a pretty tough fit. Teddy Bridgewater is second. He obviously played yesterday, and I wouldn't want his output either way. Lamar third, 8,300. Matchup against Pittsburgh is never exciting. Pittsburgh's good. And then we get into like Phillip Rivers, which is, if we get Phillip Rivers stats from 10 years ago, then I love Phillip Rivers, but getting a little long in the tooth. I am not seeing any obvious cash game quarterback options right now. Is there anything that you see that I'm missing?
Well, I think in the absence of good plays at quarterback, we can just pay for the cheap one. So, yeah, Rivers, like a really good matchup versus Detroit. That does seem like an option, or Tua. We really don't know what we're getting there, but he runs the ball a lot. So I think the matchup's really tough, though, versus the Rams. So I'm a little bit torn here. On DraftKings, I like Derek Carr, but he's expensive on FanDuel. So I'm kind of tempted just to throw in Tua because I feel like, well, actually, now I'm second guessing myself.
I was gonna say I'm in for Tua if you want it, but it would be fun.
Let's come back to quarterback, see how much we have left.
Okay, that's fine.
This is becoming tough, though.
It's very, very tough. We have 6,400 remaining QB, running back, wideout, flex. So in that case, we could take basically any quarterback or any running back, wide receiver, tight end right now. And if we could save some salary while we do it, it's probably not the worst idea in the world. Although there's not a ton of options around any sort of cheap salary. We already have Landry, Robbie Anderson done. Probably not going to go to a 2 tight end set. So we're running out of 6K-ish players.
Yeah. Josh Jacobs might be a guy I'd play in cash because Cleveland's defense, they're not bad, but the main thing is just price here. Josh Jacobs has one of the highest workloads in the league, and this year he's getting targeted at a decent rate too. So he strikes me as a guy that's pretty good in cash.
Okay. So we already have Kareem Hunt and Jarvis Landry. I know that we would probably get a question about that. Is there any issue with playing Josh Jacobs when you have two sides of the other game already?
In cash, I think it's a good thing to have both Kareem Hunt and Jacobs because there's a reverse correlation between how much each team's going to run, and that will level out your results. So I think that's a good thing in cash, but in GPPs, we would want to avoid this.
Jacobs in, QB, wideout, flex, 6K per spot. Yikes.
Yeah. 6K is not bad. Like, let's look at the wide receivers here. So,
it's pretty bleak.
T.Y. Hilton, 5,500. I mean, I know people are going to be like, what the heck? Like, how are you going to play this guy in cash? He's been dust, but he's been targeted. First of all, he's playing like almost every snap. He's been targeted at 18.5%. And the Colts have a really good matchup versus Detroit, who is weak in pass defense. So T.Y. Hilton in cash could be a decent salary saver.
Quarterback and flex, we have $12,300 remaining, so $6,150 per spot, QB and flex. So do you mind going to Rivers now at quarterback since we have T.Y. Hilton? Is that helpful to you?
No, I don't. If anything, that would make me less excited about doing it and just have all my eggs in that basket. So maybe that would make me lean towards Tua a little bit more.
Okay.
It's hard for me to quantify like how much he's going to rush, but I know it's going to be a decent amount, and I think that should add a little bit to his baseline. The Dolphins are projected for 21 points. That's not horrible. So I'm happy with Tua, I guess.
All right, Tua is in. 5,500 left at the flex. I'm anxious to see how this lineup grades out. Highest ranked or highest projected guy, 5,500 or below that you have. First name I see, Carlos Hyde.
Carlos Hyde's a great play this week, like with the caveat being if he plays, because he is questionable. But with no Carson, I mean, you know what you're going to get with Hyde. A lot of rushing attempts, not much in the passing game, and at that price is fine.
But let's slot him in now and see where we end up. Should be fun. So it's going to leave us $500 left over, which is not something I was expecting 3 players ago, but here we are. Hyde in. I think we're going to need to go back to the drawing board, boss.
What we got?
Contrarian ranking, less than 10%. Okay. Value ranking, less than 10%.
That's a little bit weird. What's our projection here? Because
133.33. Stands to reason is probably quite a bit off of the optimal.
I mean, just in fantasy cruncher, I might cheat. Don't do this at home, but I might just run a crunch for the optimal.
Okay.
I got 135.6, so
Really?
I think make sure to check back later on this contrarian value ranking, because I'm not sure if that's working correctly right now.
So you said the optimal was 135?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, if the optimal really is 135, then this lineup's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah. The other punt play at wide receiver that we didn't mention was Michael Pittman, and he's coming off the IR, so that makes it tough to really know exactly what to expect, but he's 4,500. Clearly high pecking order in the Colts offense, so I think that he could be just a pure punt. Like, since there's no one we can really count on in that range, just taking the best guy at the mid makes sense.
Yeah, if we swapped out Hilton for Pittman, that would give us an additional $1,500 to upgrade at a different spot, whether that's Tua or Carlos Hyde. Being able to go from $6,800 to $8,300 someone, or taking Hyde all the way up to $6,500, that would open us up a little bit. Quarterback, do we have that? Is anybody higher than 60? Yeah, 83. Or is that 73? And I'm bad at math. No, that's 83.
Let's just move on to the next one.
Okay. Before we move on to the next one, we need to move on to something a little bit different, and that would be a promo. Guys, you have one additional day to subscribe to Awesemo.com using the promo code PUMPKIN, PUMPKIN. This expires tomorrow, Halloween. It's $10.31 for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass. That's almost $20 off the normal price. You get access to player projections, ownership projections, premium Slack, the lineup builder that we're using on the screen, and a ton more. And again, tomorrow is your last chance to use this promo code, so you want to do it now. Again, promo code is PUMPKIN, PUMPKIN. If you want to sign up at Awesemo.com, go to Awesemo.com/join to do so and use that promo code. Boss, are you ready to go back to the wheel?
Yes.
All right. I'm really excited for this.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Hopefully we get DraftKings GPP, because I feel like that's the natural one to go to.
Well, we're about to find out. I'm expecting DraftKings Cash to just truly annoy us. Here it comes. Wheel is up. DraftKings Cash.
Okay.
Now, it is a very different and distinct build going from one site to the other, that's for sure. Pricing makes this a very different equation, and scoring makes this quite a bit different based on the additional half-point PPR. So I switch back to DraftKings Big Board. I'll go to DraftKings Ownership, DraftKings Projections. Guys, we have so much content. You need to be using that promo code PUMPKIN. But you really need to be hitting that like button. Congratulations to you guys for hopping that over 100 without me having to badger you for it. Keep running those likes up, though. I won't be mad. Where do you want to start, Alex? Who is the first guy in on a cash DraftKings build?
Well, the whole Browns versus Raiders game just seems very underpriced to me. So I'm my game stacking cash.
That's fine.
Yeah. So
Kareem Hunt, like Kareem Hunt 6,900, Josh Jacobs 6,200. I know they were pieces that we had previously, but I mean they look good.
The total of this game is the second highest on the slate. So, like, compared to what I would think about Cleveland and Vegas, and I have my pace metric is telling me this is going to be a pretty high number of plays in this game. So when you throw in that Odell Beckham Jr. is out, that adds a lot of value to the Browns, and then Vegas is just underpriced. So that's the way I'm leaning right now.
All right, so I'm going to slot Hunt, Jacobs, and Waller probably directly in, just like we did. Yeah, okay.
And Landry.
Perfect. And Landry. Done.
We could even throw in Rashard Higgins, but he's not as good a play. He says, he's 4,200. He will be really popular this week because in week 7 he got 26 of 6 for 110. I mean, that really doesn't mean much to me, other than that we know he's a decent player, not a great one, and he's going to be on the field a lot. So if we need salary, we can come back to him.
Okay. So Jacobs, Hunt, Landry, Waller, all in right out of the gate. 5,140 remaining for our remaining spots. Quarterback, 2 wideouts, a flex, and a defense. If I take a look at your big board, I think this is a spot where we definitely want to get to Keenan Allen, 6,200. He is 5th on your big board right now. That seems to be a perfect fit for us from a salary perspective too. How do you feel about Keenan Allen on DraftKings?
I think Keenan Allen's solid, yeah. We have a matchup versus Denver where the Chargers are just slightly favored, so we're not worried a ton about game script. And then when we go to the stats, Keenan Allen, he's been targeted on 30% of routes. That's one of the highest numbers in the league. So you got to expect his workload to be pretty high here.
So if we try to save a little bit of money at defense, your highest ranked defense is the Eagles at 3,500. The Bills come in second at 3,300. Tasty matchup against the Patriots. The Panthers are third, which we saw happen yesterday. And then fourth, 2,400, bit of a salary savings, the Dallas Cowboys on the opposite side of that Eagles game. Would you prefer to save the salary here and go to the Cowboys, or do you just want to take the Eagles going up against the quarterback they found in the stands for this week?
Well, the Eagles at 3,500 do look like a solid value. If we really needed some extra money, I don't hate punting defense with a team like the Cowboys, but as an overall projection, they're on the low end for defenses, so I'm not super excited about them.
Game's not on the slate, is it?
Oh yeah, that's right. So we could go to the Chiefs defense, and or New Orleans is the one we got on FanDuel. So either one of those. The Chiefs defense at 4,500 is not something I'm going to be using at all.
Yeah.
And New Orleans is 3,400. That's decent, but maybe we just punt defense.
Yeah, I feel like we don't have the Falcons as a punt. We don't have the Panthers as a punt. The Dolphins against the Rams. We just let that fill itself in when we're done. Take the best of whatever we can get.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. Is there a quarterback that stands out to you this week on DraftKings from a cash perspective?
Derek Carr stands out. I'm hearing a lot of people talking in chat about this game being a win game, though, so that would be pretty concerning. I think it is a little bit far in advance to really be confident about what the the weather conditions are going to be during the game. But the price there looks really good. But I'll just give everyone in the chat the benefit of the doubt there. Cam Newton, he's cheap, but he might get benched. Patrick Mahomes, really expensive, and the game script's concerned. So, Philip Rivers, 5,900.
This is a really tough cash week.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback, once again, I don't think it's going to be a difference maker in cash, so we'll just put in whoever's left.
Okay. So we still need a wide receiver and a flex to fill out. We have 4,900 remaining for the 4 spots we have left. Obviously, defense is going to bump that average up a little bit. Any wideout or any real position that stands out to you that we need to get in there at the flex spot? Trying to filter down the big board for just running backs, wideouts, and tight ends.
Well, Kamara is the guy if we have the money. The matchup versus Chicago, not as exciting as it was last week. Justin Jackson would be the salary saver option, provided this game happens. He got more of the work than I was thinking of Josh Kelly. Let's see. On FanDuel, Josh Kelly is way cheaper, or is a better play, but on DraftKings, Justin Jackson is a better play. So I'm not super excited about that in cash, but 2 games ago, Justin Jackson was the healthy one. 2 games ago, Justin Jackson was healthy. He was the leading back. Last game, he was a little bit more banged up. It's a little bit hard to know what the role is going to be. And that makes it a little bit hard to love either of them in cash. But let's see, Josh Kelly, he's 4,900. Justin Jackson is 4,800.
Feeling like Justin Jackson in this spot.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Go ahead and slot him in. You're hiding Chargers. There you go.
Everyone in chat's saying this slate's real hard, so I'm glad we're not the only ones having trouble making this fit.
It's a lot of mid 6, high 6K guys, and not easy to get all the way up to some of the bigger. We know that Mahomes gets a date with the Jets this week. Like, that's, in theory, you want to start there, but you can't, or at least it's difficult to do so. So quarterback, wide receiver, defense, 4,900 remaining per spot. I think it's time to just slot in whatever garbage defense we can find and really finish off this lineup.
Sounds good to me.
Cheapest legitimate option that we can go for a defense is the Dolphins at 2,400 against the Rams. I'm scared.
Yeah, they're a terrible defense and the matchup sucks, so I don't love that.
Bengals against the Titans at 2,100.
That seems not very exciting either, just because the Titans don't throw the ball a lot, and that's really how you score points on defense. So maybe we'll have to go up a little bit higher. I'm pulling up the player pool here.
Titans defense against the Bengals? This is hard.
That one's fine. I think Joe Burrow, he's thrown some picks. He looked good last week, but I think that one's a good one.
Okay. See where we end up there. Let me get the Titans in at defense. Where are they hiding? There we go. All right. 5,850 for a quarterback and a wideout. It's not too bad.
Yeah, we can work with that. So
better than I was expecting.
John Brown is popping up for me. Not a name that gets me super excited though. So let's see. AJ Green, he kind of had a big game last week. He's 4,500. He's had 2 good games in a row. The targets have been really solid. And the matchup, the Bengals should continue to have to pass a ton, so AJ Green could be a good cash play.
I'm fine with AJ Green. He looked like he got his life back together last week. It was nice to see.
Yeah.
That leaves us 7,200 at quarterback.
Okay. That at least will allow us to fade some of the tough or the less exciting options. So Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, those both look like good options. I think if the win isn't looking horrible, Derek Carr probably will be my top cash QB, but I think Herbert or Allen is fine. I have Herbert rated just a tad higher because New England's defense still is very good.
Herbert in. Now we're talking. So we have $300 remaining. 152.89 is the projection. Contrarian ranking, less than 10%. Value ranking, greater than 90%. Nailed this one. DraftKings cash lineup in the books. I like it. Herbert, Jacobs, Hunt, Landry, Allen, Green, Waller, Jackson, Titans D. Now we got it. And we're getting pretty good at this from like an efficiency standpoint. It is 11:47 a.m. We talked a little bit of Millie Maker out of the gate. I've done some plugs, and we still have some time left. We are getting pretty good at the hand building process, boss.
Nice. Yeah, I think it was even a little tough. So maybe we can finally build some GPP stuff here.
We have 2 GPP options left. I'm taking it to the wheel. What's the final GPP lineup that we build? FanDuel GPP.
Okay, awesome.
Build a FanDuel GPP lineup. Now this could be fun because we could take some off the beaten path stuff. Eric Bissell just said questions. We could also take some questions if you want.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the chat. So if you guys have any questions, drop them in there.
Yeah, we can multitask. All right, main slate FanDuel GPP lineup. This is going to be fun to do.
Marco says he calls him AJ Blue because he always disappoints. That's pretty good.
I know he's on my wife's fantasy team this year. I'll have to let her know that. She'd be happy for it. Dave Clark says, dang, I came for DK GPP. Well, you just lost 3 wheel spins for that one, buddy. Sorry, Dave.
So let's pull up the top stacks. That'll help us pick a direction to go with this FanDuel lineup here.
Perfect. FanDuel GPP, top stacks tool on the screen. Most likely top stack this week is Kansas City. They are getting similar ownership as well. I think the second spot is probably where you're going to want to go. Second highest likelihood of being the top stack, the Green Bay Packers. Not nearly as much ownership coming in on Aaron Rodgers as there is on Pat Mahomes. So are you leaning Green Bay, or is there another team there that catches your eye?
I like Green Bay. The price of Aaron Rodgers is ridiculous this week at 8,400. Oh wait, this is FanDuel. Never mind. That's fine. Yeah. So I think Green Bay is solid from this list. As I mentioned, I kind of like the Vegas stack. Buffalo looks like a good contrarian option. Or we could roster Kirk Cousins and take the opposite side of the game. All of them look like good options, but Green Bay, let's do that one.
All righty. I'll go down to Green Bay. We are going to slot in Aaron Rodgers. Where did Green Bay go? Game's on the. We picked we picked Adams early. All right, there it is. Couldn't find it. Are you just immediately slotting in Devontae Adams as well?
Yeah, I think you're gonna be battling uphill if you don't have Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers for sure.
Yeah. The bigger question then is, do you like going to Valdez-Scantling and or Tanyan as well for this stack?
That one, let's just wait a little bit until we see kind of how the rest of our lineup develops. Valdez-Scantling at 5,100 does seem like a good value option. But man, he is inconsistent. So that could be a good thing for GPPs. I'm more like trying to think of who the run back is here because we got 3 really good players.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson. What I'm thinking here is that if I don't love picking the Dalvin Cook because like the more he gets most of his points from rushing attempts, which just indicate a slow game. So maybe Adam Thielen or Justin Jefferson, but we're really paying up. So it looks like the ownership on Thielen is pretty low this week. I don't mind paying up to be contrarian there.
Perfect. Thielen in. Now I assume we're going to work our way away from this Minnesota Green Bay game. Pretty chalky with Adams, not chalky at all with Thielen, Rodgers, relatively indifferent. So I think the board is pretty open for us right now in terms of filling out the rest of our lineup.
This was pretty much the exact lineup that won week 1, I think, like so far.
If only we could go play week 1 again.
Oh, man, yeah.
I'd probably still lose.
All right. So I think we just want to get a couple good value guys in at this point. So Kittle versus Waller versus Kelsey seems to be a decision point this week. If we're projecting a lot of wind in Vegas, then going to either Jacobs or Kareem Hunt seems like a good idea. I guess maybe we'll make that decision first. So what do you think of this Browns-Raiders game? Like, and do you have a preference between Jacobs and Hunt here?
Yeah, I think I like Jacobs better in this scenario. We're spending $400 less. They have relatively comparable projections, even accounting for the salary disparity. But we've got Josh Jacobs at half of the ownership of Kareem Hunt. It just seems a little bit easier to get a little bit more unique with Jacobs for what looks like 2 pretty similar options.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
That'll put Jacobs in, as you mentioned, Kittle, Waller, Kelsey, the 3 clear top tight end options. We could get out of that tier entirely and go to someone like Hunter Henry, 5,600 if we want to save a little bit of additional money. Are the Broncos anything special against tight ends? Would that be a direction you'd be wanting to go?
Well, let's look at our other options because I do like the idea of maybe paying down and then we get a different build.
Okay.
But, man, the options this week look kind of bad. So
it's tough.
Greg Olsen at 4,900. No, that might be crazy.
I'm in. I'll roster Greg Olsen in anything. Ever since he was in the 7th Floor crew, I'm in. 100. Nice. All things Greg Olsen work for me.
Man, it looks like we're projecting the top 3 guys to have 60% combined ownership this week. So maybe you go into Hunter Henry. I was expecting, given he's like an island in price, he'd be more popular than he is. So I like that.
Perfect. I figured my suggestions would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry in saves us a little bit of salary. So we've got 5,350 to go. Running back, wideout, flex, and defense. And then we got to get out of here just before noon so that Matt and Kyle can do their fantasy start-sit show.
Nice.
Running back and wideout and flex.
How about we throw in a little bit of a contrarian play at running back because I feel like our lineup, it could use a piece that's a little bit low owned. Sure. So I'm looking through the ownership. Le'Veon Bell. I like that Jets revenge game. I don't know how high owned he'll be. I mean, that's one where it's a little bit harder to project because of that factor and the factor that Chiefs are such a big favorite that maybe Bell gets even more work than people expect. So that stands out as maybe a difference maker.
I think we go with it. I think that's a fun narrative.
Okay. Let's slide in Bell then.
And I definitely want to get some exposure to that game. You're expecting points out of Kansas City.
Yeah. And I mean, revenge narrative, like in this case, it's based on playing time. And Le'Veon Bell, like part of the reason he picked the 3 teams to sign with originally was they're the Jets' next 3 opponents. So like he clearly is going to be pushing hard again in this game.
We want to slot in a defense quickly. That'll allow us to just finish off our wide receiver and flex. We've got 5,100 remaining for our final 3 spots. Is there a defense that looks good for a GPP? Defenses seem overwhelmingly expensive this week.
Yeah. So the Titans defense, I think is one you called out that they're expensive this week. So that maybe we just want to go to a lower priced one. The 49ers versus Russ? Nah, that's crazy. The Saints defense, we picked in cash. That seems like the chalk. It does seem really tough to pick. So maybe Tennessee being one of the more highly priced ones. I think people are high on Joe Burrow right now. So I think Tennessee's defense isn't going to be popular.
I like it. All right, so that leaves us 5,400 each spot, wideout and flex, and then we gotta go.
Nice. So let's try to find one option we could go to Pittman. He's 4,500.
Okay.
And I think he'll be off people's radars since he's just coming out to IR, but he's had a promising start to the season.
That gives us 6,300 at the flex. That's more than enough to get in any sort of running back wideout or tight end. If I go to your projections right now, just to find out who the highest projected guy is at 6,300 or below, we're going to land on somebody, that's for sure. 6,300. Keenan Allen.
One guy, Keenan Allen, 6,300. Yeah, let's do that then.
Okay. Keenan Allen going in. We'll see how this grades out, and then we'll get out of here. So Keenan Allen in. Wait, that does not work at all.
Wait, no, he's too much.
I'm on DraftKings. Okay. I filtered the projections for 6,300, and I was just like, that doesn't make any sense. I put him in, and we were over by $1,100. Jarvis Landry, David Montgomery, Justin Jackson, Fournette, Darrell Henderson, some of the top-ranked guys. Feels like
Jamison Crowder could be a good idea. He's certainly not going to be popular because he's a Jet, and
they're going to need to throw.
Yeah, exactly. So, he has been really good in the games he's played so far. The other option, Deontay Johnson, really tough matchup versus Baltimore. We got Parker, who's playing with the new quarterback now, so I don't love that. The other option is Darrell Henderson versus Miami. I could see the Rams running a ton in that game, so I think that could be a good idea.
So I put Crowder in as you first mentioned him. That spends all of our salary. Contrarian ranking greater than 90%. Value ranking 60 to 70. I think we knocked this one out of the park.
Apparently, this is an even better cash lineup than what we made for cash.
I think we nailed it, but we have got to go, boss. Any final thoughts before we get out of here and turn this one over to Kyle and Matt?
Just thanks everyone for supporting the stream. Make sure to hit the subscribe button on the way out if you're not already subscribed. And smash the like, as Josh always likes to say. So thanks a lot, guys.
There you go, guys. Thank you very much. We will talk to you again, Alex and I, together next Friday. Tune in to Matt and Kyle talking start sit right now. New stream, same channel. We'll talk to you later.